It was like a curse. I was just going to be talking about technology as a challenge. And today, for some reason, the live stream setup was just not working the way I wanted it to work or the way that it always been working. So, what do you know? This is the Melbourne Live Show. How's everyone doing? And today we want to talk about technology as a challenge in your business. But before we get into that, let's talk about 3 decades ago, right? Just 3 decades ago. That's not too long ago, like 30 years ago. What's happening was that we only had things like the newspaper, right? And the newspaper was the by far the one of the most common means of us being able to read about the news and what's going on anywhere in the world. And of course, the newspaper was also one of the means for any company to do marketing, to do recruitment, to do advertisement on the platform itself. And then we also had this thing called the fax machine. And that's the closest that we get to what we know today as the email application, right? So the fax machine was ubiquitous. In any company you go to, they must have a fax machine. In fact, I was one of these few people who leveraged the fax machine to send promotional materials to organizations. And that's for another story, another time. But the fax machine was arguably the only way that you can reach anybody in the world as long as you're able to get hold of their fax number and you can send anything you want, right? Just about anything that can be printed on a piece of paper, you can send it to them. And and then we had this thing called the television, right? And the television was our main source of entertainment as well as news as well as education. And I always remember as a young boy, I would come back from school and I'll wait till 3 p.m. in the afternoon for my favorite English um, show at 3 o'clock. And sometimes I may, after come back from school, I may go take a nap. And if I wake up after 3:30 and that is gone, right? I mean, that episode is gone forever. There is no way for you to kind of rewind or call it back. You miss the entire episode and you missed it. Unless until much later we had this thing called the VCR. And so kind of fast forward to today's context, what do we have? We have the internet. And the internet is one of the dream come true, right? It's the platform that allows us to do all these wonderful things. It's arguably the platform that allows so many people to realize their dreams. And myself, as an example, I was able to leverage the internet to earn an income and to be able to reach out to people from all over the world, where I am able to connect with people from, as far as California to as far as Finland, anywhere in the world, right? As long as they have an internet access, we would be able to communicate. And then we had that killer application. Now, some of you might not think of it as a killer application, but in as far as possible, that application is not going away. And that application, it's email. And email is here to stay, in the foreseeable future. Email is going to be the way that we still communicate. And by and large, email is still the medium by which we are able to build a stronger bond with our customer. And then, of course, we have this thing called the smartphone. And the smartphone is probably the best gift that Steve Jobs gave to the world, because with the smartphone itself, it gave birth to an entire new industry like Airbnb, like Uber, like Grab. All those companies would not be able to be who they are today had the smartphone not been invented. I mean, DoorDash just raised a huge amount of money from their IPO as well. So, you know, all those businesses thrive because of the invention of the smartphone. And while we think that technology today, in today's context, really gave us all that possibilities. I mean, I was just speaking to a client yesterday, and I was just demonstrating to him the kind of reach and the kind of technology that we now have that enable anyone in any part of the world to be able to use technology to identify the kind of right market, right? The 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 type of people that you want to reach, and you are able to personalize or customize your message to this group of people. And if this group of people that you have in your list isn't enough, you can then, by extension of that, reach out to another group of people who have got similar characteristics and face similar challenges than the list that you already have. Now, all that, it kind of blows your mind away, and of course, the ability and the awareness that people do not even know about such technology, and secondly, the lack of the ability to be able to use such technology in the most effective manner, and of course, thirdly, the ability to use this technology not for what its main intent and purposes, but to be able to do more than that, to kind of influence the way people think, for example. And just to think that 3 decades ago, or for for good measure, just 10 years ago, many of these things that we now take for granted would not even be possible, for a very simple reason, because there was no internet. At least not 30 years ago, there was no internet. There was definitely no such thing as an email, or at least in its consumer usage at a point in time. And of course, there was no such thing as a smartphone, right? And even then, 30 years ago, anyone who can afford to buy a computer would actually need to be quite smart, because not only are you able to afford it, but you actually know how to use it. So where does this leave us? We think that all this thing that we have, it's so upgrade and all. But the truth of the matter is that the digital divide, the divide that separates the have and the have nots, it's now wider than we think. And this has been accentuated during the COVID pandemic itself, because during this period, you can really see how certain companies, and it's not just in terms of their size or their pockets or their budget or their creativity, but it just differentiates the group of businesses that are able to adapt and to be able to leverage technology for what it's worth and to be able to use it beyond its intent and purposes to overcome the challenges that was posed because of the COVID pandemic. And then on the other hand, you have huge companies, right? Huge companies that are that has got a huge presence, for example. And because of the COVID pandemic and the lack of ability, willingness, and perhaps humility to embrace the internet for what it's worth, as a result of this, many of these companies have gone under. So, where does this leave us? The group of people who we call the one person business or the non employee businesses. Where does this leave us? Now, this leaves us in a very interesting situation, because this is a time where if we are quick enough, if we are opportunistic enough, if we are bold enough, if we are humble enough, if we are daring enough, if we are willing to take the risk enough, if we are able to face the fact that we may not be able to succeed on the first try, if we are able to take all that and to think about where we can go, then definitely technology is not going to be a challenge. Having said that, for many, technology will be a challenge. Why? Because of the fact that they're afraid of technology, and all this just seems too complicated for them. Where setting up a something as simple as a landing page, it's too technical for them. Uploading their online course into an LMS is just way too complicated. And let alone, talking about Facebook advertisement, Pixel, and all that stuff is just way, way, way too much for them. Now, of course, with these people, there are two things that they could do. One is if they are aware of the technology and what it can do, of course, they are able to embrace that. And if they are not able to understand how to use it, they can, of course, work with people like us, for instance, and we can help them implement these strategies because we know what works and what can be done. Whereas on the other hand, if they are just being big headed about the whole thing and unwilling and unable to accept the fact that they are at the tail end of the expiration, their expiration in terms of commercially savviness, business savviness, it's coming to an end. If they are unable to accept the fact and to think that, well, this too shall pass and things are going to be back to normal, and so there is no need for embracing social media, SEO, and landing pages and pixel and all that stuff, right? That reluctance of it all, it's going to be a challenge for them. So when we talk about the challenge, the question I want to ask you is the following: which level of challenge are you at? Now we can break the level of challenge into perhaps five areas. So at one end of the extreme, we have people who know about how this technology works. They believe in this technology and they know exactly what they want. But for some reason, they have not embraced or used those technology. So it could be a matter of they either didn't have the budget, they didn't have the capability, or they just haven't had time to sit down and look and evaluate how they could do this. So that's category one. Category two of people would be the people who are aware about such technology, but not in its specificity and not in specific terms enough. So they kind of know, like, social media and SEO and landing pages. They kind of know that, but not at a specific level and not what it can do. Like, how do you put one and one together to create a flywheel for your business? So if you are that group of people, you are in category number two, which means you're aware, but you're not quite sure, like, how does it work? Now, category number three would be people who know about technology in general, but they are more at the consumer level rather than the advertisers or the creators level. So they are on the other end of the spectrum. And they're just wondering and overwhelmed and in awe of what's going on. And they haven't still quite figure out how technology is going to work for them. They, they just see all this coming at them and they are benefiting from it as a consumer, but they cannot see or they cannot quite see how this technology can help their business. So that's category number three. Category number four would be people who are who have embraced some technology, like, they have an email address, they have a static website, and they have a basic social media account, but they are just not concerned or curious about how it can enhance their business, right? So they just think that, yeah, I am technology savvy. I mean, I got a website, I got my email, I have my social media, and that's that, right? So that's category number four. And category number five, I hope none of you here falls into category number five. Category number five would be those people who, I would say, they are in denial. And this are the group of people who do not think that technology is going to work for my industry. So, for example, they could be in a particular type of industry that they believe strongly that it still comes down to being able to meet you face to face, or being able to be there and having the needing to have that huge presence and all that old school stuff without understanding or without even wanting to explore how technology can work for them. And so on this range of spectrum from one to five itself, my question to you is, at which level are you at? And so, like I say, I hope none of you watching this would fall into category number five. I think most of you would be in category number three through five. Excuse me, three to one, right? So you're either in category one, two, or three. And so if you're in category number three, what you really want to do is you want to ask yourself, as a customer, as a consumer, as a client of your business, how would these people, how would this clients, customers, consumer be able to benefit if you were to use technology to reach out to them, right? So that's for category number three. Category number two are the people who know that this thing works, but they're not quite sure how, you put one and one together. So right now it's very much a piecemeal approach. So for category number two people, what you really want to do is you need what we call a strategist, someone like me who is able to help you see the big picture and then to be able to recommend and suggest putting together a suite of tools to be able to help you achieve your business goal and to accelerate your growth. So that's for category two people. Now, category one people, the fact that you know how all this works, but you either just do not have the time, do not have the money, or do not have the capability to put it all together. Now, I would say that this group of people are actually between the rock and a hard place because you know that it works, but you just didn't have the money, you didn't have the time, and you just do not have the capability to do it on your own. And so, with this group of people, the best approach for you is truly to be part of a community. And in that community itself, what you really want to look out for are like minded individuals and people who are gracious enough to want to help, want to share, want to show how they have been using technology to benefit their business and what you can do likewise. And so, my friends, if you fall into category one, go join a community. If you want to be part of my community, I'm more than welcome you. And so just drop me a tweet, drop me a comment, drop me an email, right? For people who are in category number two, you want to speak to a strategist. So book a meeting with me. Let's talk it out, right? Let's discuss and see what is it that we can do for you. And of course, you can then decide whether you want to hire us or you want to go at it on your own. And then for category three people, really, category three people, I think the best way forward for you really is to be able to start understanding how customers of your business would be able to benefit from the kind of technology that we have, that you have been benefiting as a consumer, as an end user, right? I would like you to think about how your customers, how your clients are able to benefit from the technology that you now benefit from as a consumer, as an end user. And so, with that, I hope this episode has been helpful because this was something that I struggled with for a long time. And I definitely want you to be able to find that quick solution and to move on to the next level itself. And so, if there's any way, shape, and form that I could help in your implementation, please feel free to, drop me a chat, leave a comment, send me a tweet, send me an email. You know, I mean, depends on what works for you. Just go with that, and let's sit down and chat, and maybe we could work something out, right? And thank you for all that you've been watching today. It's 199. Can you believe that? 199 episodes. Just one day I missed. And that was because I was completely knocked out. But 199, can you imagine that? Whew. So if there is a topic that you'd like me to cover, make sure you leave it in the comment and I'll be sure to look into that. And with that, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.